The year I turned 50, I was in a serious car accident. I should not have died, but my daughter secretly pulled out my oxygen tube, all because, back when the college entrance exam results came out, I forced her to apply to a prestigious university in another city, separating her from the sweetheart she had left behind at a local junior college. She said she had never been happy in her life, and that I had ruined it. So just 3 days after I died, she urged her father to marry his first love, his white moonlight, and turn them into a love story. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the days before my daughter's college entrance exam. This time, I would no longer be a tiger mom. Don't want to study? Then don't. If you want to be in a relationship, then go ahead and be in one. She finally grew fond of me, someone as indifferent as a chrysanthemum. One, Mrs. Jiai's mom. Jiai's first mock exam results are out, and they're not very ideal. This shouldn't be her level. This child hasn't been in the right state lately. Have you, as parents, been paying attention? The very first moment after I was reborn, I received a call from my daughter's homeroom teacher. In my previous life, I also received this call at this very moment. There were just over 3 months left until the college entrance exam. Back then, the moment I heard the words, "not very ideal," I instantly felt as if I were facing a formidable enemy. Liang Jia had always been in the top 10 of her grade and was widely regarded by teachers as a promising candidate for prestigious universities. This time, she unexpectedly fell out of the top 20, which felt to me like the sky had fallen. After seeking advice from her teachers, I didn't hesitate to put my work aside, scouring the entire city to find top tutors for her. I also consulted psychologists to help her manage her emotions and even taught myself nutrition courses, providing round-the-clock, nanny-like care during the college entrance exam. She finally lived up to expectations and achieved her ideal score. However, when it came time to fill out her college applications, we had a disagreement. I want her to apply for a top program at University B, which would allow her to leverage her strengths and ensure good employment prospects in the future. However, she wants to stay local and attend an ordinary second-tier university. The reason is that next to that university is the vocational college where the boy she likes is going. I was furious. I dragged her to the school to see the teacher. Under the soft and hard persuasion of the principal and more than a dozen teachers, she finally reluctantly filled in B university. Later, she went to a prestigious university, met an excellent mentor, pursued a direct PhD program, and after graduation joined a well-known multinational company. She achieved success in her career, and her life went smoothly all the way. However, she said that she hated me. Over these years, she rarely came home. Even when she came back once during the holidays, she would just visit her father and leave. Although I was sad, I still only thought it was because there was an unresolved knot between us, mother and daughter, and that things would be fine once she matured. Yet I waited more than 10 years, until the year I turned 50, when I was in a car accident. I waited in the ICU for several days before she finally arrived, fashionably late. I heard the doctor say to her with my own ears, "Although your mother was seriously injured, the good news is that she is no longer in danger. It's just that in the future she may not be able to stand or walk normally." After the doctor left, she leaned close to my ear and said, "Do you know how much I hate you? Every bit of unhappiness in my life is because of you. How can someone who ruined other people's lives still have the face to live so long? I'm not going to let you drag us down." With that, she pulled out my oxygen tube without the slightest hesitation. Just 3 days after I died, she coaxed her father, Liang Yuanfeng, into marrying his first love, the white moonlight in his heart, Su Qing. She also used her media resources to turn the two of them into an online love story, making netizens exclaim one after another that they believe in love again. It was only after I died that I learned Liang Yuanfeng and Su Qing had already been having an affair behind my back, and Liang Jia knew all of this. Ms. Jia's mother, Are you listening to me? On the phone, the homeroom teacher was still rambling on. I sighed. "All right, Teacher Wang, I understand. I'll ask her when I get back." Teacher Wang was very surprised. "Aren't you going to ask her about the specific points she lost?" "No need. I wouldn't understand any of that anyway." After saying that, I decisively hung up the phone. In my previous life, I was a well-known tiger mom, doing everything I could for Liang Jia, but she said she liked Aunt Su Qing's elegant detachment the most. Then in this life, I will do as she wishes too. That evening, Liang Jia came home. As soon as she walked in, she kept her head down, her heavy bangs covering most of her face. This was her special hairstyle. Whenever she felt guilty at times like this in the past, I would quickly step forward to take her backpack, help her change into slippers, and remind her to wash her hands and eat. On the dining table was a 4-dish, 1 soup meal made right on time, and today I neither went to meet her, nor was the dining table set. She glanced at it, full of resentment. The meal still isn't ready. What time is it already? I kept busy with my own things and ignored her. She fell silent for a while, then suddenly roared at me. Is it really such a big deal to fail one exam? Do you have to be so cruel? Are you trying to drive me to my death? Just because I didn't cook one meal? And she calls me cruel. Her father hasn't stepped into the kitchen in over a decade. Yet I've never heard her say a word about it. It's as if I'm the family maid, born to serve them. Besides, if we're talking about cruelty, compared to how she didn't hesitate to pull the plug on my oxygen tube in my past life, I'm still far from that level now. You only care about grades. Failing one exam is like committing a major crime. Are grades really that important? Is getting into a good university really that important? Don't you just want me to live out the dreams you never achieved? Why should I have to accomplish the things you couldn't? I'm a human being, not a machine that can only get high scores, and I'm certainly not a pet willing to be tamed by you. Her anger came at me like a barrage of bullets. In fact, we had argued like this in my previous life too. Back then, I would sit down properly and comfort her, then I patiently explained to her why I was pushing her to be outstanding, and why people need to stand on a higher step in order to see more scenery, and no, I simply stopped what I was doing and looked at her. Are you finished? When you're done talking, there are vegetables, eggs, and leftover rice in the fridge. Make yourself something to eat. From childhood to adulthood, I had never made her do any housework, so much so that even at 18, her 10 fingers had never touched a drop of domestic labor. What did you say? You're calling me to cook. Are you mistaken? She looked utterly incredulous. No mistake, it's you. If you want to eat, you'll have to make it yourself. Oh, and one more thing, from now on I'll be working regular hours, and I might often have to work overtime. That means I won't have time to cook anymore. I'll handle my meals at the office cafeteria. Since your dad doesn't come home for dinner anyway, you'll have to take care of yourself too. In my previous life, in order to take care of her, I specifically requested to start late and leave early from work, never attending overtime or social engagements, almost completely abandoning my own career. If it weren't for the fact that I still had a government job attached to my name, I would probably have been fired long ago. It wasn't until I died once that I truly understood, whether man or woman, only a career is the foundation for making a living and establishing oneself. She looked at him with utter disdain. What's so great about that lousy job of yours? Why are you putting on airs? See, even she looks down on me. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Liang Yuan phone calling. Si Wenjin, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you making food for the child? She's at the stage when she needs nutrition the most, and you're actually letting her go hungry. Are you even her biological mother? You're so idle all day, and you can't even handle this little thing. I really don't know what you're thinking. I hung up the phone expressionlessly. After 20 years of widowhood, some things really should come to an end. Throughout the entire evening, Liang Jia came to probe my attitude several times, but I never said a word. In the end, she was the first to break. Do you want to take a look at this time's exam paper? I didn't even look up. No need. Just take a look yourself. But the teacher told me to bring it to you to see. Go tell your teacher that from now on, there's no need to show me anything anymore. I won't understand it anyway. I added specially, the same goes for everything else. From now on, decide your own matters yourself. There's no need to ask me. She was first shocked, then looked skeptical, and finally let out a snort. Here we go again. She thought I was playing the retreat to advance trick on her again. After all, I had done it before, but now, I didn't want to, and there was no need to anymore. The next day, I called the homeroom teacher and said I'd be sent out on a business trip, and that from then on, either Liang Jia should handle her own matters, or they should go to her father. Teacher Wang was very surprised and kept persuading me, at this critical time, you should still put your child's future first, but I declined all of it. In my previous life, I was bound for a lifetime by countless such remarks, to the point that I gradually lost myself step by step and, in the end, even lost my life. In this life, I live only for myself, and the most important thing in this life, of course, is to get rid of Liang Yuanfeng, this scumbag. If I remember correctly, tomorrow is the day Su Qing returns to the country. She was Liang Yuanfeng's first love, and the two were said to have been madly in love. But after graduating from college, Su Qing married a foreign man in order to go abroad. Liang Yuanfeng was in pain for a long time because of this. Later, he met me, the cleanup guy, got married, had children, and carried on step by step, and Su Qing became the eternal white moonlight in his heart. So when the news that Su Qing had divorced and returned to China spread, his dead heart instantly came back to life. Not long after Su Qing came back. The two of them got together, but Liang Yuanfeng knew very well that if he wanted to climb higher in his career, family harmony was an important metric, and he didn't dare to divorce. And at that time, I was entirely focused on Liang Jiayi, feeling that having a daughter means having everything, and I gradually grew used to this kind of widow-style marriage. I never expected that the three of them had been in cahoots for a long time. Just 3 days after I died, the father and daughter were already treading on a new grave to welcome an old lover. In this life, I'm not only going to get everything I deserve, I'm also going to make the shameless couple pay the price. For the next morning, Liang Yuanfeng indeed got up early. He washed his hair and shaved, carefully picked out his clothes, and even hummed a tune. He looked full of energy, just like a rooster in heat. Recently the company has launched a new business, so I'm probably going to be busy for a while. You'll need to take care of things at home more, especially the children. Pay more attention to that. I smiled and said, sure, go ahead and get busy. For the next few days, Liang Yuanfeng didn't come home. He was accompanying Su Qing to look for a place and settle into their new home. Meanwhile, I signed up for the professional title exam and also took the initiative to apply for a new project. The leader looked at me with a gratified expression. You should have done this long ago. You're so capable, yet you wasted so much time for nothing. Thankfully, it's not too late now. Keep it up. I thanked the leader and focused on my work without any distractions. After observing for a few days, Liang Jiayi realized that I truly wasn't paying attention to her anymore, so she began to let her true nature show. She stopped practicing problems, skipped tutoring sessions, and indulged in ordering all kinds of takeout every day. Eating to her heart's content, she even deliberately made sarcastic remarks in front of me, saying, "This is the kind of life a normal person should live." I used to cook on time every day and tried my best to keep her from eating unhealthy food. She said she had long been fed up with the bland taste of home. After finishing takeout, she couldn't even be bothered to throw away the trash. She would just lie back on the bed and play on her phone, often staying up all night, then dozing off in class the next day. At first, teachers from every subject took turns calling me. After I made it clear that I wasn't going to get involved, the teachers let things slide as well. After all, life is one's own, and no one else has any obligation to be responsible for you. After the second practice exam, she fell out of the top 500 and finally got her wish. She was moved out of the honors class into the regular class where her boyfriend was. Lovers finally end up together. And I heard the two of them slept through class together, dated after class, and went wild playing around. Every weekend later, she became more and more brazen, even bringing her boyfriend home and introducing him to me as if presenting a treasure. Mom, isn't Zhang Yu handsome? In this life, I finally met the boy who, in legend, she had loved for her entire life. Indeed, he is very tall and handsome, and knows how to have fun, fitting my stereotypical impression of the bad boy type who is handsome but not academically inclined on campus. Unfortunately, beneath that attractive exterior lies a heart with ill intentions. I glanced at them and smiled slightly, saying, "Handsome, ever since I stopped interfering with her, our relationship has actually improved a lot." Occasionally, I also reflect, if I had figured it out earlier in my previous life, perhaps I wouldn't have had to die so soon. However, not long after, I was proven wrong. 5. On the weekend, Liang Yuanfeng's company organized a family team-building event, which was a major highlight of the year. On the surface, it was a gathering for everyone to eat, drink, and have fun, but in reality, it was an opportunity for the leadership to learn about the family situations of the employees, with a wealth of information to be gleaned, so he had to take me with him. Because of Liang Jiayi's excellence, over the past few years we've always been the center of everyone's envy, and the leadership has repeatedly praised Liang Yuanfeng for being adept at running his household, which has given a significant boost to his career. This year was no different. After a few rounds of drinks, the family members with children once again began their annual Learn from the Master session. A colleague asked Liang Yuanfeng, "Jiayi is about to take the college entrance exam. Have you two decided yet, Tsinghua or Peking University?" Another colleague immediately chimed in, "It depends on which university offers better resources. For a talent like Jiayi, both Tsinghua and Peking University's admissions offices would have to bid for her." Ah, what a happy dilemma. I'm afraid we won't have such good fortune. Liang Yuanfeng was beaming with joy. Everyone has a chance, everyone does. So, how did you two manage to raise Jiayi so well? Don't keep any secrets to yourselves, share some tips with us. Liang Yuanfeng grew even more pleased with himself amid the praise. There's no special trick, really. It's mostly the child's own self-discipline. I hardly ever had to manage her. That was actually the truth. How could someone who only enjoys the fruit know the hardship of the one who plants the tree. Everyone was still eagerly seeking advice from me. In previous years, I would have responded with measured humility and thorough consideration, all to earn a few extra points for Liang Yuanfeng in front of the leadership, and now, of course, I'm going to add fuel to the fire. I cleared my throat and said, "Old Liang is right, we really haven't paid much attention to it. Learning requires talent. Some kids grasp things right away, while others, no matter how hard they try, just can't seem to get it." As I said this, I deliberately glanced at a certain leader whose child was an academic underachiever. Take our Jiai, for example. I don't see her putting in much effort. She spends her days eating, sleeping, and playing on her phone, yet she still manages to score high on exams. Maybe that's what they call natural talent, but in the end, it all comes down to our good old Liang genes. A tiger father doesn't have a dog daughter, right, everyone, after a round of self-praise, many people continued to echo the words verbally, but their facial expressions were quite complex. In the workplace, nothing is more dangerous than attracting too much attention. It's likely that after drawing this wave of resentment, when Liang Yuanfeng stumbles in the future, he will undoubtedly fall even harder. On the way back, Liang Yuanfeng indeed scolded me. "What's wrong with you today? Why were you so immodest in your speech? Others might think we're arrogant, and it wouldn't look good if the leaders found out." I pretended to flatter him. Excessive modesty is hypocrisy. Besides, I didn't say anything wrong. Your daughter is truly outstanding. It's a plus for you too, so why not praise her more? He was quite pleased. That's true. I just want them to see that my daughter, Liang Yuanfeng's daughter, is truly exceptional among people. I chuckled to myself, thinking he would soon find out. He would soon learn how that exceptional daughter of his would utterly disgrace him. I thought this day would come after Liang Jiai's college entrance exams, but I never expected it to happen so soon. Recently, I've been busy with my professional title exams, and the new project is progressing rapidly, keeping me fully occupied. One day, Liang Jiai's new homeroom teacher suddenly called me, asking me to come to the school immediately. I assumed it was about her usual lack of effort and self-destructive behavior, so I flatly refused. I've long stopped caring about her affairs. "You should contact her father instead," the teacher said. "I've tried contacting her, but her father's phone is switched off, and, after hesitating for a long time, she finally said, it'd be best if her mother could come here in person." "What exactly is going on?" the teacher added. "Please come to the school as soon as possible." 6. After arriving at school, the homeroom teacher, Mr. Zhang, called me into a separate office and told me that Liang Jiai had been injured and was now being treated in the school infirmary. I figured it probably wasn't too serious, otherwise the teacher wouldn't have been so calm. Still, I asked perfunctorily, "How was she injured? Is it serious?" Mr. Zhang didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked me, "Are you familiar with Jiai's recent situation, especially her personal life?" I thought to myself, of course I knew, but I still asked her, "Just tell me what it is." The teacher looked grave. After gathering her thoughts for a moment, she said, "Jiai has been engaging in suicidal behavior." "What did you say? Suicide?" I was still quite shocked to hear this. Although Liang Jiai was selfish and vicious, in my previous life she had never shown any suicidal tendencies. Selfish people always hurt others, never themselves. "It seems that being in love really does make people stupid," Teacher Zhang explained to me. "Actually, it doesn't really count as a suicide attempt. We just suspect she has that tendency." She cut herself with a razor blade in class. Fortunately, everyone noticed in time and took her to the infirmary, so it didn't lead to serious consequences. "Do you know that she's in a relationship?" Teacher Zhang asked again. I said nothing, which was basically a tacit agreement. "Why don't you do something about it? Kids at this age aren't mentally mature yet. When they go through a breakup, they act like life is over." Sigh. Teacher Zhang wore an expression of disappointment at her inability to live up to expectations. So it turned out the young couple had had a fight. Zhang Yu wanted to break up, and Liang Jiai had started self-harming. For a moment, I really didn't know what to say, so I could only give an awkward smile. Teacher Zhang sighed. "I've thought it over and over, and I still think it's best for one of you parents to take her back and talk some sense into her. If she stays at school like this and something goes wrong, no one can bear the responsibility." "You mean expulsion?" I confirmed. I had expected that in this life she would have no connection with elite schools, but I never imagined that in just a few days, she would already have fallen to the point of being expelled. Teacher Zhang reassured me. "Actually, it's not that serious. Her student status will be kept on record, and when the time comes, she can still come back and continue taking the college entrance exam, if she wants." To be honest, my feelings right now are very complicated. Even though I've already decided not to interfere in her life anymore, under these circumstances, I can't just dump the burden on an innocent teacher. Can I? After thinking it over, I still said to teacher Zhang, take me to see her first. 7. On the way to the school infirmary, I specifically called Liang Yuanfeng as expected. His phone was turned off at this time. He should be sneaking off to meet Su Qing. That guy always turns his phone off whenever he's up to no good anyway. I've already fulfilled my duty to notify her. When I saw Liang Jiai, she was lying on the bed in a daze, with gauze wrapped around her wrist and a somewhat pale face. When she saw me, she quickly turned her head away. Teacher Zhang thoughtfully told her, Jiai, your mom is here, have a good talk with her. Unexpectedly, the first thing she said to me was, if you came to see a joke, you've already seen it, you can leave now. You child, how can you talk to your mother like that? I hadn't even gotten upset, but teacher Zhang got angry first. It's fine, I'm used to it. The school doctor explained the situation to me, although the wound was no longer serious. He still recommended that I take her to see a psychologist as soon as possible. I thanked the school doctor and teacher Zhang and promised to take her there, and only then did they leave reassured. Only the two of us were left in the room. The air was quiet for a long time, and in the end, she spoke first. Stop pretending. If you want to curse me out, just do it, anyway. I'm never breaking up with Zhang Yu. Don't even think about tearing us apart, even if I die. I want to die together with him. She said this with an expression of utter resolve. I laughed. Why would I scold you? She looked at me suspiciously. Then why are you here? Maybe I had been too overbearing in my previous life, so much so that even now she still half believed and half doubted my attitude. Then today, let me make her believe it completely. I asked her, do you know that the teacher wants you to drop out? She had an indifferent attitude. If I get expelled, so be it. Anyway, I don't want to stay at school anymore. What about the college entrance exam? Are you still taking it? Of course I am. I've already made plans with Zhang Yu. We're going to Dongxin together. Anyway, with my grades, getting in there is more than enough. I might as well use this time to have some fun. Dongxin Vocational and Technical College was exactly the local junior college Zhang Yu attended in her previous life. Have you decided? She answered without hesitation. Yes, I've decided. I'm already 18, and I have the right to decide my own life. Fine then, diagnosed with terminal love-brain syndrome, completely beyond saving. All right, I respect your decision. Sign this. I handed her a pledge, something I had prepared long ago. It read, I, Liang Jiai, ID number XX, hereby solemnly promise that, whatever decisions I make in the future, and whatever consequences those decisions may bring, I will bear full responsibility on my own, and have nothing to do with Ms. Siwenjin. She glanced at it. So if I sign this, you won't interfere with me at all anymore. Of course, fine, I'll sign. She signed her name with a bold flourish. I put away the letter of commitment and immediately felt a sense of relief. In this lifetime, the bond between mother and daughter between us ends here. After I've finished dealing with her, it'll be her dad. Liang Yuanfeng's turned 8 after Liang Jiai dropped out. She didn't go back home to live. Instead, she moved in with a classmate who rented a place outside. I said I wouldn't interfere, so I didn't ask a single question. So Liang Yuanfeng was still dreaming that his daughter was being fiercely sought after by Tsinghua and Peking University. Let him keep showing off for a few more days. As the college entrance exam approached, Liang Yuanfeng and Su Qing had mostly settled into their new home, and I had also finished all the preparations I needed to make. So I found an opportunity and made plans with my best friend Li Mi to stage a chance encounter with them at a home furnishing mall. The four of us all graduated from C University, and we knew each other. Li Mi is now still working at Liang Yuanfeng's superior unit. As soon as we met, she pulled me over and asked, I heard you and old Liang offended someone at the last team building event. What happened? News really does travel fast in this circle. I pretended to ask, who did I offend? She looked worried. You really don't know. You offended Director Zhou. He's old Liang's direct supervisor. I had no idea. How did I offend him? Didn't you mock his child for being stupid? That's Zhou's sore spot. Anyone who touches it is doomed. Old Liang's life is probably going to be rough from now on. After thinking it over, she said again, no, that's not right. You shouldn't be lacking even this much sensitivity, should you? Unless, just as she was speaking, Liang Yuanfeng and Su Qing came walking over arm in arm from ahead. Seeing this, Li Mi was instantly furious. I get it now, Liang Yuanfeng, that bastard. Don't worry, whatever you want to do, I'll support you, I said lightly. I just want to ask you to be a witness for me, so that if anything happens in the future, there'll at least be someone to testify. Don't worry, I'll definitely do a good job as this witness. She immediately took out her phone and, in one breath, snapped a lot of photos and videos. Liang Yuanfeng and Su Qing were engrossed in picking out home goods and only noticed us After quite a while, both of them were genuinely startled. Liang Yuanfeng reacted very quickly. He immediately shook off Su Qing's hand and ran up to us. However, his first reaction was not to explain to me, but to greet Li Mi, directorly. Out shopping, Li Mi said with a half smile. Yeah, I just came out for a stroll. The outside world really is wonderful. Liang Yuanfeng's face turned red and white in quick succession, and he gave a forced laugh twice. Then he pulled me aside and asked in a low voice, "How did you end up here?" This mall was far from my home and definitely not within my usual activity range. It must have been specially chosen by Liang Yuanfeng. I ignored him, walked around him, and looked at Su Qing, who was hiding in the corner. With a cold laugh, I said, "Well, isn't this Su Qing? When did you get back? You didn't even let me know in advance. I could have gone to pick you up." Su Qing had already recovered from her initial panic. She brushed her hair back and said, "Not many days ago, Yuanfeng went to pick me up. He said you had to take care of the child, so he didn't want to trouble you." I let out a sneer. "I see, you're still so considerate." Li Mi had always been blunt. "Honey, you used the wrong word, didn't you? This isn't called considerate, this is called sneaking around, isn't that right?" Liang Yuanfeng, "Su Qing, long time no see, you're still such a bitch, aren't you?" Su Qing glared furiously, and just as she was about to retort, Liang Yuanfeng stopped her. Of course, he didn't dare offend Li Mi, so he could only force himself to argue weakly. "You've misunderstood. Su Qing just returned to the country a few days ago and isn't very familiar with things here. I'm showing her around and helping her get acquainted. We're all old classmates." "Enough, Liang Yuanfeng." I slapped him across the face and shouted angrily, "Do you take me for a blind person or an idiot? Don't think I don't know about all those sneaky little things you've been up to." Liang Yuanfeng was stunned by the sudden slap. It took him a long time before he could clutch his face and stammer at me, You shrew." The commotion here quickly drew everyone's attention, and they all came over to watch the spectacle. Taking advantage of the moment, I burst into tears. "Liang Yuanfeng, you heartless bastard, sneaking around with another woman behind my back, and you still dare call me a shrew. You say you're working overtime every day, but it turns out you're out shopping with your mistress. You've ignored the family for so many years, only to have a new home outside. How can you face me and the children? How can you face the support our whole family has given you all these years?" The crowd around began to point and comment, "What a scumbag, betraying his family, ungrateful, worse than a pig or a dog." Of course, they didn't miss Su Qing hiding in the corner. That must be the mistress, right? She really looks like a seductress, clearly no good, thieves and harlots. That vile pair should all die. Cheating men and mistresses have, from ancient times to the present, been rats crossing the street, hated by all and deserving of execution by anyone, with this public sentiment as a basis. Plus, I think I've seen this person somewhere before. Let's check which department he's from and report him. Finally, someone in the crowd hit the point, seeing that quite a few people had recorded videos. I wiped away my tears in relief and threw a single line at Liang Yuanfeng, divorce. Then, without looking back, I left. Liang Yuanfeng's career path in this lifetime was, for all intents and purposes, over. 9. I had barely gotten home when Liang Yuanfeng came back right behind me. At first, he vehemently denied having an affair with Su Qing. I just picked her up once and helped her find a place to live. There was nothing else. After I threw out a pile of photos of them going shopping for groceries together, coming and going together, he lowered himself and begged me for forgiveness. He even knelt down before me. "Honey, please don't divorce me. Okay, this is the most critical moment. I've worked so hard for so many years for this one chance. Last time, the leadership already had quite a few complaints about me, so nothing must go wrong again." After all that talk, the only thing he cared about was his own future. I sneered. "Liang Yuanfeng, no one can be lucky forever. The moment you and Su Qing started fooling around, you should have thought about today." To my surprise, he hugged my legs and burst into tears. "Honey, I was wrong. As long as you don't divorce me, I'll agree to anything you want, for the sake of our child. Please help me one more time." "Okay, Dad, don't beg her." I don't know. When Liang Jia had already appeared at the door, she strode over to us and grabbed Liang Yuanfeng's arm. "Dad, this woman is the very definition of cold-blooded and heartless. Why are you pleading with her? If she wants a divorce, then let her have it. Haven't you had enough of her already?" "So have I. Far away smells sweet, up close stinks. After all these years, I gave everything I had to her and to this family, and in the end, I still didn't even measure up to a father she could barely see a few times a year. Since you call me cold-blooded and heartless, then I can't let that bad name go to waste." I placed the drafted divorce agreement in front of Liang Yuanfeng. "Then let's not wait any longer. Sign it quickly, Liang Jia." glared at me and cut in. I'll state my position first. After the divorce, I'm going with my dad. Don't you even think about fighting for custody of me, even if we end up in court. I'll tell the judge the same thing. She affectionately took Liang Yuanfeng's arm. Dad, with me backing you up, aren't you happy? There was no trace of joy on Liang Yuanfeng's face. Instead, he looked somewhat troubled. After a pause, he said, happy, happy. I let out a soft laugh. Who said I was going to fight? You for custody. Read the terms above carefully. Can't you read? The first clause of the divorce agreement was that Liang Jiayi's custody would go to the husband. She looked momentarily surprised, but quickly put on a smug, triumphant expression. At least you have some self-awareness. In the past, she had often boasted in front of her classmates that her father worked for a certain organization, and when it came to my job, she would sneer dismissively, saying, she's just an errand girl. After today, it's still not certain who'll be the one doing the grunt work. Seeing that I had made up my mind, Liang Yuanfeng began discussing the division of assets with me. The assets between us are fairly simple. Premarital property under each person's name goes to that person, and postmarital savings are split 50-50. If it isn't mine, I won't take an extra cent, but Liang Yuanfeng didn't see it that way. Since the child is staying with me, then this apartment should go to me, that way. It'll be more convenient for her to go to school. Liang Jia immediately sided with her dad. Exactly, so you'd better move out right away. I laughed in anger. Sure enough, only when faced with interests big enough do people reveal their true nature. This house is a school district property in a prime location, worth a fortune and with tremendous room for appreciation. My parents bought it for us before their marriage. But his family did indeed pay for the renovation and the furniture, by both reason and sentiment. I should have given him some compensation. But now, whenever I think that in my previous life, after I died, he and Suqing seized all the property belonging to me and my parents, yet wouldn't even buy me the cheapest burial plot. He even fabricated a will saying that I like to see burial, and directly scattered my ashes. Anger surged up in my heart again. Liang Yuanfeng, do you have no shame? Are you trying to rob me openly? Sure enough, he brought up the renovation and furniture purchases, as well as Liang Jiayi's child support, and even dragged up the betrothal gift money he gave me back then. Anyway, I need to fight for this house, or he won't sign. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him anymore. How about we go to court then? Anyway, you're the party at fault. What kind of offense is bigamy? Do you want me to give you a little lesson on the law? Oh, and by the way, divorce judgments from the court are posted online. You don't want a record on file, do you? After a moment of silence, he finally lowered his head. Fine, I agree to the divorce, but I have one more condition. What conditions? His condition was to buy out the photos in my hands, because he knew how powerful those photos were. I agreed readily, and he finally let out a sigh of relief. However, he probably still didn't know that after we left, Li Mi had already used his own means to secretly buy the photos and videos taken by the onlookers. When this bomb will go off is entirely under my control. 10. On the day of the move, Liang Jiayi went to school, but Liang Yuanfeng kept dawdling and refused to help her pack her things. In the end, he finally blurted out the truth. Could you let Jiayi stay at your place for a while first? I need some time to find a house too. I snorted. Hasn't the house already been rented? Suqing just doesn't agree, right? He looked embarrassed. She didn't agree. The child is grown now, so it is indeed a bit inconvenient. Besides, the college entrance exam is just around the corner. I'm afraid a sudden change of environment will affect her condition. Enough, Liang Yuanfeng. I cut him off. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You want to keep the custody, but have me take care of the child, and then just sit back and reap the benefits, right? There's no such good deal. I had hit upon his ulterior motive, and he flew into a rage out of embarrassment. Do you have to put it so harshly, since you've said so? Let's do it that way then. After all, you're the child's biological mother. You can't just stand by and watch her end up sleeping on the streets, can you? I laughed in anger and, without another word, quickly packed up Liang Jiayi's things and stuffed them all into his car. Whether she ends up sleeping on the streets or not, that's your problem now. Liang Yuanfeng pointed at me and said, I think Jiayi was right. You are a cold, heartless woman. It's really bad luck to have met you. He drove off while cursing under his breath, splashing mud and water everywhere. What a shame Liang Jiayi didn't get to see with her own eyes how her father, whose fatherly love was like a mountain, despised her. 11. On the day they went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to complete the formalities, Liang Yuanfeng and Suqing came hand in hand. Liang Jiayi even came along. Seeing me, the two women simultaneously displayed provocative expressions. Their expressions really did make them look like a mother and daughter. Liang Jiayi walked up to me, chin held high. I heard you threw my things out that day. I'm just here to tell you that Aunt Suqing treats me very well, so you don't need to worry about it. Suqing also affectionately hooked her arm through Liang Jiayi's. That's right, Jiayi and I really get along. I glanced at her. Is that so? then that's good, make sure it stays that way. In her previous life, the reason Su Qing had tried to curry favor with Liang Jiayi was because she was the favored child of an elite school, a successful social elite, and also a crucial bargaining chip for her to hold on to Liang Yuanfeng. And now, after successfully marrying her way up, how would she treat a stepdaughter who had no halo and no use to her? I believe the truth will be revealed soon. Shortly after Liang Yuanfeng and I finalized our divorce procedures, he immediately registered for marriage with Su Qing, so sought after that even the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau kept glancing over at them as soon as they got their marriage certificate. Su Qing immediately became haughty. Si Wenjin, I never expected that after 20 years, you'd still lose to me. Now do you understand? You're just my substitute. Yuanfeng never loved you. I snorted coldly. Yeah, compared to being in an affair no one can see, living openly and proudly is of course a lot nicer. Enjoy it while you can. She paused, then said, but I still have to thank you. Thank you for taking care of Yuanfeng all these years. That's much cheaper than hiring a nanny, isn't it? Yuanfeng. Liang Yuanfeng's expression was grim. All right, enough, say a little less, all of you. I smiled brightly. Don't, if you've got something to say more. I love hearing it. What if I won't get to hear it again later? Liang Yuanfeng took the mother and daughter and left. Before they went, Su Qing stuffed a red box into my hand. Today is our wedding anniversary. This is wedding candy. Remember to eat it. Looking at their backs, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The more pleased you are now, the more disappointed you'll be later. That's what makes life interesting. I can hardly wait. 12. On the eve of the college entrance examination, I passed my professional title exam smoothly, and the new project was also completed outstandingly. My leader praised me highly for this and promoted me with a raise ahead of schedule. In this life, I was finally no longer the office errand girl in Liang Jiayi's mouth, but someone with my own accomplishments and value. By the time I finished all this, the college entrance exam had begun. Liang Jiayi still went to take the exam, and Liang Yuanfeng personally took her to the exam venue. Even now, he still didn't know the true situation of his daughter. I heard that while waiting outside the exam hall, he was still showing off to the other parents, and the reason I kept enduring without saying a word was, of course, to let him experience the feeling of good fortune never comes alone, but misfortune never comes singly. More than half a month later, the college entrance exam results were announced, and Liang Jiayi finally got what she had wished for, proudly landing on the local junior college cutoff line. It is said that after Liang Yuanfeng saw the score, he kept suspecting that the education authorities had made a mistake, and even tried to appeal upward. After receiving confirmation at every level, he finally accepted reality, then immediately grabbed Liang Jiayi and gave her a brutal beating. As soon as Su Qing heard that she hadn't even gotten into college, she immediately joined Liang Yuanfeng in beating and cursing her. Because Liang Yuanfeng had been too ruthless, Liang Jiayi was sent to the hospital on the spot, with not even a single person to accompany her, and this was only the beginning. The next day, as soon as Liang Yuanfeng arrived at the office, the staff from the disciplinary inspection department had already been waiting for quite some time. He still wanted to argue, but little did he know that the online outrage had already reached a boiling point, and the offline tip-off hotlines were also being flooded. Photos of him shopping with Su Qing, checking into hotels, and renting high-end apartments were everywhere, and every single one had the date it was taken, especially in the video from the home furnishing mall, where the legitimate wife catches the cheating scumbag and mistress in the act. Liang Yuanfeng and Su Qing's faces were clearly visible, piece by piece. The facts of Liang Yuanfeng's adultery during marriage and promiscuous relationships were undeniable, and behind all this, what supports their extravagant spending? The answer goes without saying. Liang Yuanfeng's change did indeed begin after he got involved with Su Qing. How could his meager salary ever satisfy a vain, status-chasing rich wife? And once some things begin, there is no going back. Over the years, Liang Yuanfeng's high-profile behavior had offended quite a few people, so after he was taken away, those who went with the flow were everywhere. In particular, his immediate superior, Director Zhou, was the first to put principle above kinship, and Li Mi, this witness, delivered the final fatal blow at just the right moment. Faced with a series of ironclad evidence, Liang Yuanfeng finally collapsed helplessly to the ground and confessed all of his crimes. The relevant authorities naturally also came to me, but over all these years he had never taken care of the household, and not a single cent of his money was used for the family's daily living expenses. In addition, his seamless transition from divorce to remarriage, when all the evidence is linked together, can prove my innocence. As for Su Qing, she was not so easy to get away. She was suspected of joint crime and not only had all her assets confiscated, but also had to return the portion that had already been squandered, amounting to over 1 million yuan. She had run out of options and actually came begging to me, for the sake of your more than 20 years as a married couple. Please help us. If I can't pay this money back, old Liang will be sentenced very harshly, and his health is already poor. What if he can't come out again? If I end up in there too, then Jiayu will have no one to take care of her. How pitiful would that be? She was crying her eyes out, tears streaming down her face, looking utterly miserable, and I just said lightly, what does any of that have to do with me? Besides that, I'd even think it was a waste to say another word. I called security to have her thrown out. Unexpectedly, she still refused to give up and sent Liang Jia over the next day. 13. When Liang Jia came, she was still injured, with bruising around her eyes, a visible wound on her forehead, and a bandage hanging from her arm. Liang Yuanfeng was really ruthless. When she saw me, her eyes darted away, but she still mustered up the courage to beg me, Mom, please save Dad. Just think of it as doing it for me. I hadn't wanted to waste words on her, but when I heard that, I couldn't help laughing. For you, who do you think you are, being this self-confident? She froze for a moment, then asked me, Mom, are you really not going to care about us anymore? I didn't even spare her a glance. After a while of silence, she suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud in front of me. Mom, I was immature before and hurt you. I'm sorry. My dad knows he was wrong too. He asked me to apologize to you on his behalf. He said that as long as you help him this once he gets out, he'll divorce Aunt Suqing immediately and live a good life with you. Mom, we're family. Please don't abandon us. I looked at her. These words were told to you by Suqing, weren't they? No, it's my sincere truth. Sincere truth. Heh, you don't even know where you went wrong. Mom, I really know I was wrong. You can hit me or scold me, but please don't just ignore me. Enough, I interrupted her. Instead of using that time to plead for someone else, why not think seriously about what you're going to do in the future? By the way, there's something you still don't know, is there? What is it? Zhang Yu passed the undergraduate admission line. He's going to college in Haicheng. What did you say? That's impossible. She sprang to her feet, her face full of shock. I sighed and still told her the truth. Zhang Yu has someone new he likes now, and that girl is excellent. In order to catch up with her, while you were giving yourself up, he reformed and turned back from his wasteful ways and studied hard, which is why he has achieved what he has today. And you, she didn't listen at all, just kept brainwashing herself. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. We already made a promise long ago, and we even called each other before filling out our college choices. He wouldn't lie to me. You must have made a mistake. Are you deliberately saying bad things about him? Sigh. Everyone who gets deceived is like this at first. I really didn't want to see her foolish look anymore. All right, whether I made a mistake or not, go verify it yourself. I've got things to do, so get out. I'm not seeing you off. She ran out like a madwoman, like a wild beast out of control. Watching that still immature figure from behind, I could only let out a long sigh. Believing a man's promises is the beginning of all misfortune. I'm afraid this mistake would take her a lifetime to make up for. 14 later, I was busy with work, and for a long time I didn't hear any news about Liang Jia. Suqing came to pester me several more times, but I drove her away each time. According to Li Mi, it wasn't long before she stopped saving people and instead filed a lawsuit with the court against Liang Yuanfeng. She not only pushed all the blame onto Liang Yuanfeng, but also asked the court to rule that the two of them be divorced. It was rejected by the court. In the end, with no way out, she tried to run away and be done with it, but was caught and brought back before she even reached the airport. As summer vacation was coming to an end, the investigation into Liang Yuanfeng finally produced results. All of his charges were confirmed, and he was soon formally arrested in accordance with the law. The facts of Suqing's joint crime were also established, and she was arrested as well. Looking at the official announcement, I only felt a great sense of relief. The company's overseas assignment quotas came down, and this year's destination was Europe. The project was also exceptionally good. I was just about to submit the report when my supervisor directly brought the application form to me. How did you know I was going to apply? He patted me on the shoulder. Is there anyone more suitable than you? The day before I left the country, I suddenly received a call from an unfamiliar number. It turned out to be a call from Zhang Yu's mother. She asked me to keep an eye on my own daughter and not let her keep pestering her son, so as not to ruin his future. It turned out that during this time, Liang Jia had been going to Zhang Yu's house day and night to block him, crying, making a scene, and threatening to hang herself, constantly using death as a threat. After the Zhang family called the police several times without any effect, they finally managed to get my phone number through several rounds of inquiries. All I can say is sorry, and then tell her, if even the police can't deal with someone, how could I possibly deal with them? You planted the bitter fruit yourself, so You'll have to swallow it yourself." Before hanging up, she said something very unpleasant. "I've never seen a girl who thinks so little of herself and debases herself like this. I think that assessment is quite objective." 15. I heard from them again 2 years later, after finishing my overseas assignment and returning to China. I was transferred to a better unit, and both my career and life entered a new stage. Liang Yuanfeng was sentenced to 5 years in prison, since Su Qing pinned all the blame on Liang Yuanfeng, and Liang Yuanfeng admitted to it as well. She was only sentenced to 1 year after she came out. The first thing she did was file for divorce again, and this time the court granted it. After that, she quickly found a new benefactor and resumed the quiet, blissful life of a wealthy lady that she showed off in her social media. Liang Jia eventually didn't even go to junior college. She chased after Zhang Yu to Haiqing. It's said that she worked at a restaurant next to Zhang Yu's university all the time, then used the money she earned to support Zhang Yu. But even so, their relationship still didn't last long. Zhang Yu soon got a new girlfriend at university. Liang Jia went to make a scene again, and this time Zhang Yu didn't indulge her. He directly called over a group of people to beat her up, and even threatened to drive her out of Haiqing. Liang Jia certainly would not let it go. A few days later, a piece of social news shocked the entire internet. Bloody murder on campus. Haiqing University girl kills her boyfriend before jumping to her death. I stared at the news, silent for a long time. She never imagined that in this life, she would end up like this. Liang Yuanfeng was still serving his sentence, and now she didn't even have anyone to collect her body. After thinking for a long while, I finally dialed the Haiqing police. When I pulled back that white sheet, my heart still gave a violent jolt. The way he had died was truly too horrific. On the other side, Zhang Yu's parents had already cried themselves unconscious. Even if I die, I'm going to die together with Zhang Yu. I never expected that a threat she made 2 years ago would actually come true in the end. As Buddhism says, children are debts from past lives, and that probably captures the essence of it. "May I ask, are you Ms. Siwenjin?" A young girl stopped me. "Yes, I am. Is there something I can help you with?" The girl took out an envelope. "I'm a friend Liang Jia. Met while working. She gave me this letter before she left that day. She said that if you came, I must make sure to hand it to you." I accepted it. When I opened it, the first sentence was, "Mom, I'm sorry. Please forgive my selfishness once again, and for causing you trouble again." At the moment I decided to put an end to things with Zhang Yu, I suddenly saw myself in my past life, the selfish, foolish, cruel version of myself. I have failed you, hurt you, and in the end, I even took your life with my own hands. In this life and the last, the sins I have committed against you can never be atoned for. Only by offering my own life can I ensure that you will never be troubled again in this lifetime. I love the sea. After I am gone, if you are willing, please scatter my ashes into the ocean. In the next life, I will not seek you out again. I closed the letter and let out a long sigh of relief. Then, let it be as she wished. Afterward, at the age of 49, I had already planned to retire leisurely, seeking out mountains and rivers, but I was promoted once again. The leader said, "Shaoxi, you're still so young, how could we let you go? Of course, you're going to keep shining and contributing." At the age of 50, I was transferred to the capital. In the year of knowing destiny, my career unexpectedly opened a new chapter. Truly, life is like a song. In my previous life, I was in a car accident on my way to see Liang Jia. In this life, without her and having moved to a new city, naturally, there will be no more accidents. This year, everything is well for the rest of my life. May all things go smoothly. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After the summer vacation started, my mother-in-law insisted on sending her 7 nieces and nephews to my house. In my previous life, I firmly refused. First, my husband and I started from scratch and didn't have much savings, so we couldn't afford to support so many children. Second, our house is only about 80 square meters, which simply can't accommodate so many people. My husband also couldn't bear to spend so much money and decisively refused my mother-in-law. But who would have thought that a month later, a netizen brought over a dozen relatives' children to the city for summer vacation and became an overnight sensation, making a fortune. My mother-in-law mocked me, saying I was born without the fate to make big money. My husband also resented me for making him miss the opportunity to earn tens of millions a year and become rich overnight. To get back at me, my husband tricked me into returning to our hometown to pay respects to our ancestors, broke both my legs, and sold me to an old bachelor in the village. I was brutally abused by the old bachelor and died a miserable death. When I opened my eyes again, I heard my husband hang up the phone and hesitantly ask me, Honey, it's summer break. Mom wants to send our nephews over to our place for a few days. Do you agree? My husband David and I are both small-town exam warriors. My parents favored boys over girls, and I was only able to complete college thanks to the support of kind-hearted people. David's hometown is in the mountains, even poorer than mine, and he also relied on the help of caring individuals to get into university. After graduating from college, we stayed in the big city to work hard and build our careers. At our poorest, we shared a 300 yuan basement apartment. I slept on the bed, and he slept on the floor. That year, the city cracked down on the rental market, and all the cheap basements were shut down. David and I were kicked out of the basement by the landlord late at night, carrying our luggage. The summer mosquitoes bit us all over, leaving us covered in bumps. We huddled under a streetlight, sharing and finishing a bag of instant noodles that cost 80 cents. At that time, David swore to me, Lily, one day, I will buy a house in this city, then we will have our own home. Believe me, I will never let you be kicked out of a rental by the landlord in the middle of the night again. After that day, we simply stopped renting and instead bought a minivan at a low price. During the day, we worked, and at night, we drove the minivan to the night market to set up a stall. When we were tired or sleepy, we took turns napping in the minivan. For meals, we only ate the cheapest plain boiled noodles. We washed our faces and bathed in free public restrooms, and so, after 5 years of hard work and saving, we finally managed to scrape together enough for the down payment. In the city where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold, David and I finally have a little place to call our own, even though it's just a 89 square meter old, worn-out 5th floor walk-up. For us, who have lived in a basement before, we are more than satisfied. In my previous life, when my in-laws heard that David and I had bought a house in the city, they immediately started boasting about it back in our hometown. No matter who from the village came to the city, my in-laws would call and ask us to bring them to our home and entertain them properly. They never considered that we were just ordinary workers in the city. We still had to pay 7,000 or 8,000 in mortgage every month. Where do we have so much time and money to host all those relatives from our hometown? Moreover, this time, my mother-in-law had a wild idea. She wanted the relatives from our hometown to send all their children to the city. The underlying message was for David and me to take these kids and let them have a good time in the big city. But she didn't stop to think, with 7 kids suddenly in the house, who would take care of their daily needs? How much would it cost for an entire summer vacation? Moreover, my mother-in-law's intention is not only to ensure these children eat and drink well, she also wants David and me to take these children to Disneyland, to see the Bund and the Oriental Pearl Tower, and to visit the Science Museum. The museum, with our current salaries, David and I simply can't afford the expenses for these places. Besides, neither David nor I have any experience taking care of children. With so many kids, what if they get hurt, or get lost in the scenic spots? How are we going to explain it to the child's parents? In my previous life, I explained these issues to David one by one. After hearing what I said, David also felt that hosting so many relatives' children at home for a whole summer would involve significant costs and risks, so he decisively refused his mother-in-law. But later, he ended up resenting me for it. I hate that I made him miss the great opportunity to go viral and earn tens of millions a year in this life. David, I won't stop you anymore. 3. My thoughts returned, and hearing my husband pressing for my opinion, I quickly smiled and said, "It's your relative. You can decide for yourself." After saying that, I quickly stood up and started packing my luggage. My husband looked at me in surprise. "It's so late, why are you packing?" I pinched my thigh hard, my eyes reddened, and I said to my husband in a hoarse voice, "I didn't want to worry you, but since I'm going back this time and I don't know when I'll return, I thought I should let you know. Grandma was hospitalized for high blood pressure, and my mom asked me to go back and see her. I was raised by my grandma, and my husband knows how close we are." When he heard that grandma was sick, he nodded and reluctantly transferred 500 yuan to me. "The company has been busy lately, and it's hard to take time off. I won't be able to go back with you to see Grandma this time. Take this 500 yuan and buy some fruit for Grandma." I secretly sneered and accepted the $500. In my previous life, I thought I had married an economically suitable man, so when David was stingy with money toward me and my family, I always thought he was just being frugal. But later I realized that he was unwilling to spend even a single penny on me and my family. He is very generous with his parents, his brother and sister-in-law, and all those relatives back in his hometown. In the 2nd year of our marriage, my mother-in-law said the old house needed renovation. Without a second thought, David sent all the 50,000 yuan we had painstakingly saved for having a baby to his mother. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I mentioned wanting to prepare for pregnancy and have a child, and we had managed to save another 20,000 yuan, but then my mother-in-law said that my brother-in-law's son didn't do well in the high school entrance exam and wanted to attend a private high school, but they were still 20,000 yuan short for the tuition. David once again transferred the full $20,000 to his brother without missing a cent, not to mention, during holidays. His mother-in-law believed that since her son graduated from a prestigious university and had bought a house and settled down in a big city, he was the most accomplished young man in the village. Every time they returned home, she would have David buy all kinds of expensive cigarettes and alcohol to give to their relatives in the hometown. As a result, no matter how hard David and I worked to earn and save money, just one trip back to his hometown for the new year would leave us with nothing left in our pockets after a year of savings. Now that I think about it, it's a good thing I didn't have children because I never had the money. There's nothing left to hold me back after divorcing David in this life. Without me to stop him, David really couldn't bring himself to refuse his mother. 2 days later, David's older brother and his wife arrived with their son and daughter, along with David's sister's 2 sons and 1 daughter, David's cousin's son and daughter, another cousin's son, as well as David's parents and his sister, 12 people in total. Both young and old, they crowded into our 89 square meter old and cramped home. Seeing that I wasn't there, my mother-in-law immediately raised her eyebrows. David, where is your wife? Did she go out to buy groceries because she knew we had guests? Hurry up and give her a call, tell her to buy some lobsters, crabs, and things like that. Also, get more of those fried chicken burgers that the kids love to eat. It's rare for the relatives to visit. You and your wife shouldn't be stingy. Hearing his mother-in-law's words, David said awkwardly, Mom, my wife went back to her hometown to visit her grandmother. She's not home. What? Your wife isn't home? Then who's going to do the laundry and cook for us these days? Who's going to take my grandchildren out to play? David said to his mother-in-law in a flattering tone, I'll order takeout for you, and I'll take them out to play. Besides, Lily said her grandmother is in the hospital, so she just went back to check on her. Maybe she'll be back in a couple of days. Mom, please bear with it for a couple of days. When Lily comes back, I'll make sure she takes good care of you. Hearing her husband say this, the mother-in-law reluctantly accepted. In his previous life, my husband thought that having 7 children at home only meant making sure they had 3 meals a day and didn't go hungry, but soon, he tasted the pain of having 7 children at home. Meals were the easiest problem to solve. The kids all loved takeout, and the burgers, fried chicken, fries, and cola he ordered for them received unanimous praise. After eating, a new problem emerged. 3 middle school kids ran over and asked if we had any game controllers at home because they wanted to play games. 2 4th or 5th graders were also clamoring, saying they wanted a tablet to play Eggy Party. There were also 2 1st graders who, seeing that the TV was taken over by their grandma, started crying and demanding to watch cartoons. Just when we finally managed to calm the kids down, the adults started causing trouble. Last time when my in-laws and brother-in-law and his wife came to visit the city, I had everything perfectly arranged for their food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation. David just stayed at home as a hands-off manager, completely unaware of how troublesome daily life could be with so many guests suddenly arriving in this lifetime. Without me, the ever-diligent workhorse, it's finally David's turn to suffer. My in-laws and brother-in-law and his wife expected us to buy everything new for them, so they brought nothing with them when they came. When it was time to take a bath and go to bed in the evening, the problem arose. My mother-in-law asked loudly, David, did you buy me pajamas and slippers? My father-in-law complained beside her, I've run out of cigarettes. David, did you buy me any? My brother and sister-in-law also urged, David, hurry up and find the toothpaste, toothbrushes, and the towels we need for our evening bath. David was completely baffled. How was he supposed to know that having guests over involved so many complicated matters? He hurriedly called me, Honey, where did you put the pajamas and slippers you bought for my parents? And did you buy the cigarettes for my dad? Where did you put the spare toothpaste, toothbrushes, towels, and other things at home? 6. On the other end of the phone, after listening to David's urgent inquiry, I leisurely replied, Mom and Dad didn't ask me to buy these things. They're going on a trip, and they didn't bring daily necessities like toothpaste and toothbrushes. On the other end of the phone, David choked back his anger and explained to me patiently, it's rare for Mom and Dad to travel far, and they don't know what to bring. As their children, we should be considerate of the elderly. Besides, weren't you the one who always prepared these things in the past? I sneered inwardly. So, you do know that when your relatives came to visit before, I was the one busy taking care of everything for their food, accommodation, and travel. But what about him? He always talks about being filial to his parents and repaying his brother and sister-in-law, yet he doesn't even think to buy them toothpaste, toothbrushes, slippers, or towels. However, now is not the time to completely break ties, so I could only say to him with a guilty look, I'm sorry, honey. I was so panicked about Grandma being hospitalized that I rushed out and didn't have time to buy daily necessities for your parents. It's still early anyway, you can just go to the supermarket and buy it yourself. After hanging up the phone, I quickly turned on the surveillance camera in the living room. Sure enough, I saw David curse a couple of times, grab the keys to his electric scooter, and head out to buy the items. A cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Is this all there is, David? Your hard days are still ahead of you in this life. Finally, after the whole family had finished bathing, David was so exhausted he could barely straighten his back. He had just wanted to lie down and get some sleep. Suddenly, the two first-grade children started crying. Why, I want to go home. I want my mom. One cry after another woke everyone in the room. David was furious and couldn't help but roar, stop crying. If you keep crying, I'll sell you to human traffickers. Wah, help. I don't want to be sold to human traffickers. I want to find the police. The two children cried even louder. The soundproofing in old residential buildings was already poor, and with so many people suddenly arriving at our house, especially with so many children, it was bound to attract attention. Hearing children crying loudly inside the house and shouting something about human traffickers, a concerned elderly woman in the neighborhood immediately called the police. In the middle of the night, the local police station dispatched 3 patrol cars at once and surrounded our house on the spot. When David was pinned down on the sofa by the police, he was completely stunned with anger. Officer, it's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. They're all children from my relatives' families. They're on summer vacation and came to my place to play for a couple of days. We're not human traffickers. If you don't believe me, ask them. The older children were still somewhat okay, but the 2 younger ones were crying so hard they started hiccuping, pointing at David and insisting that he was the human trafficker who wanted to sell them into the mountains. That's it. David was immediately taken to the police station by the officers and thoroughly interrogated. David gave the police his cousin and cousin-in-law's phone numbers, but in the middle of the night, the calls just wouldn't go through. It wasn't until the next morning, when his cousin finally answered the phone, that David's suspicion of being a human trafficker was completely cleared. When he got home, David angrily demanded that his in-laws send those 2 kids from the relative's family back right away. My mother-in-law is very concerned about face. When she heard that my husband wanted to send the relative's child back, she plopped down on the ground, slapped her thighs, and started yelling, David, you unfilial son, are you trying to trample my face in the dirt? Your cousin was so good to you when you were little, he'd share even a single piece of candy with you. Now, just letting his child come over for a couple of meals, and you're giving the kid a hard time, even talking about sending him back. Where does that leave my dignity? Let me tell you, David, if you want to send that child back, you'll have to step over my dead body first. David was most afraid of his mother's tantrums and rolling on the ground. Seeing this situation, he knew the child couldn't be sent away, so he had no choice but to grit his teeth and endure it. Witnessing the scene, I secretly sneered, it's only the first day, and you can't stand it already. According to my mother-in-law's intention, these children were supposed to stay at our house until almost the start of school before being sent back. David's good days are yet to come. Coincidentally, I was at the hospital accompanying my grandmother and had nothing to do, so early the next morning, I turned on the living room surveillance camera. 9. As I had guessed, early in the morning, the house was already in chaos. In the past, it was just David and me at home. Both of us had to rush to catch the subway for work, so we didn't have time to make breakfast at home and would just grab something to eat on the way. When the mother-in-law heard that she had to go out to buy breakfast herself, she immediately jumped 3 feet high and angered. David, I raised you with my own hands, feeding and caring for you until you grew up, and even put you through college. Is this how you repay me? How many times a year do I come to stay at your house, and you actually expect me to go out and buy my own breakfast? Have you no conscience at all? The mother-in-law's temper flared up. She blocked the door, insisting that her son-in-law make breakfast for the whole family before allowing him to leave for work. My husband was sweating profusely in a panic, shouting at his mother in frustration, Mom, can you please stop making a scene? If I make breakfast for you before going to work, I'll miss the company shuttle. If I'm late, I'll be fined, and I'll lose this month's perfect attendance bonus. His mother simply wouldn't listen. In her eyes, her pride was more important than anything else. When she was back in her hometown, she had boasted so much, and this trip to the city was meant to let the children enjoy a better life, but it was only the second day, and her husband didn't even make breakfast for them. If this got back to the village, where would her dignity be? David, if you still recognize me as your mother, say no more and hurry up to make breakfast for the children. My husband couldn't argue with his mother, so he had to put down his laptop bag and go to the kitchen to make breakfast. But when I left yesterday, I hadn't bought any Ingredients for breakfast. My husband opened the fridge and took a look. In the end, he boiled a large pot of eggs and cooked a pot of noodles, then mixed them with soy sauce and sesame oil. When my mother-in-law saw that my husband had been busy in the kitchen for so long only to serve these two simple dishes, her face instantly turned pale. "David, I've raised you all these years, and this is what you feed me." By this time, the children from the relatives' families had also gotten up one after another. Seeing the boiled eggs and noodles on the table, they all pouted. "Uncle, I want to eat soup, dumplings and chicken wontons. I want beef noodles, and also pot stickers. I don't want plain milk. I want milk." The 7 children were all talking at once, making David's head feel like it was about to explode. "Stop arguing, eat if you want, if not, then go hungry. I'm going to work." As he spoke, David picked up his laptop bag, opened the door as if fleeing for his life, and ran out. Did he think he could escape the trouble by going to the office? It just so happened that my college classmate worked in administration at David's company. At noon, while I was in the hospital cafeteria lining up to get food for my grandmother, my classmate suddenly sent me a few video clips. I clicked on them and almost burst out laughing. 11. It turned out that David had just arrived at the company when, not long after, his mother-in-law, along with his brother and sister-in-law, swaggered into the company with their 7 gored kids in tow. They even told the receptionist that her son was a top executive at the company and that she wanted to take the children on a tour of their own company, demanding that the receptionist lead the way. As luck would have it, just as the mother-in-law was saying this, the chairman happened to walk in and was so amused by the situation that he couldn't help but laugh. I had no idea that our Duncan family had suddenly changed its name to Lincoln. Upon hearing the news, David scrambled to the front desk and, under the curious gazes of the entire company, managed to persuade his mother-in-law to leave the office after much pleading. His mother-in-law never expected that David's claim of being a leader in a listed company actually meant he was just a team leader. Feeling embarrassed, his mother-in-law insisted that her son-in-law accompany them to the Bund to see the Oriental Pearl Tower. At that moment, several children started making a fuss again. "I don't want to go to the Bund. I want to go to Disney. I want to go to the zoo to see the big tiger and the giant panda." "Uncle, we want to go to the comic convention. The tickets are really hard to get. Please help us grab them." In the video, David clenched his fists tightly, unable to hold back any longer, and roared loudly, "Enough! What Disney? What comic convention? Where would our family get that kind of money? If you want to go have fun, go ask your own parents for money." David's words had stirred up a hornet's nest. He didn't know that before coming, his mother-in-law had promised her relatives back in their hometown with full confidence. During this trip to the big city, not only would the relatives not have to pay for food, accommodation, or transportation, but her son would also take the children out for lavish meals and sightseeing at tourist attractions. All the expenses for these children were covered by her son, but now, David actually embarrassed her in public. "David, you're the elder. The kids just want to go to the amusement park. How much could it possibly cost? As an elder, are you really not ashamed to ask the younger generation for such a small amount of money?" David completely broke down and shouted at his mother-in-law, "Such a small amount? Mom, do you even know how much a Disney ticket costs during the peak summer travel season? And everything inside is ridiculously expensive. For a family of 4, just going in for a day can easily cost 10 to 20,000. You insist on taking them. Fine, you pay for it. 5,000 per person. Give me the money, and I'll take time off right now to take them." Hearing her son's words, the mother-in-law was shocked. "How can amusement parks in big cities be so expensive? Back in our hometown, it's only 10 yuan per ticket." All right, let's just skip Disney then. Go ask your supervisor for some time off and take them to places like the Science Museum or the regular museum for a visit." David took a deep breath. It looked like he was about to be driven mad by his mother-in-law. He forced the words through gritted teeth. "Mom, those places you mentioned all require reservations in advance. I didn't expect David to last even 3 days. On the second night, he couldn't wait to call me. Honey, is Grandma feeling better? If she is, can you come back quickly? With so many guests at home, I can't handle them all by myself. And Mom is starting to complain, and my salary this month is a bit tight. Honey, could you transfer me 5,000 yuan?" My salary and David's were originally combined, but later, I watched helplessly as he repeatedly used the money we had worked so hard to save to support his parents' family. We had a fierce argument. After that argument, we decided to temporarily implement a going Dutch system. The mortgage is split equally between us, and for household utilities and living expenses, we each deposit 1,000 into the shared account every month. This year, I stopped worrying about how much David gives to his parents. Aside from the mortgage and living expenses, I saved all of my salary, and David must have known that I had at least $10,000 saved up. He had the nerve to ask for half of my savings right off the bat. But why should I give you the money I've worked so hard to save? Seeing that I remained silent, David also became unhappy. Lily, we're husband and wife. My parents are your parents too. Our parents have come all the way to the city with relatives, and not only are you not here, but you're also unwilling to contribute even a single penny. I really doubt whether you've ever considered me as part of the family. Just as David was about to continue playing the emotional card with me, I spoke up from the other end of the phone, my voice hoarse. David, I'm going to sell the house. What? David was startled. The doctor said Grandma needs a major surgery, and we need to prepare at least 150,000 yuan. I only have a little over 10,000 yuan on hand, and my parents and uncles can't come up with that much money either. You know, Grandma and I are the closest. I can't just stand by and watch something happen to her. Haven't you always told me that my family is your family? Grandma urgently needs the money for a life-saving treatment. Can we sell the house first? On the other end of the phone, David's breathing gradually quickened. Lily, we're not young anymore. Haven't you always planned to have a child? If we sell the house now, what if you get pregnant and lose your job later? How will we ever afford to buy it back? I pretended to be anxious and interrupted David. We can buy another house later, and we can postpone having children for now, but Grandma only has this one chance for surgery. I don't care, I own half of that house. If you don't agree to sell it to save Grandma, then we're getting a divorce. When the court rules, the house will be sold, and I'll at least get back 400,000. You, Lily, you're absolutely insane. David panicked and hung up the phone, never daring to ask me for money again. But this time, it was my turn not to let him off the hook. When David wouldn't answer my calls, I used my parents' and grandmother's phones, calling him from different numbers. The irony is, this man who kept saying your parents are my parents actually blocked my entire family's phone numbers when my relatives needed money to save a life. But it doesn't matter. I hired a lawyer and filed for divorce directly. When the lawyer's letter arrived at David's company, he finally unblocked me from his blacklist. Lily, are you crazy? You actually went to court to file for divorce. You want to sell our house? I secretly sneered, deliberately pretending to be reluctant to let him go, suppressing a sob as I said to him, David, I don't want this either, but she's my only living grandmother. Haven't you always told me that money is just an external thing, and family is what truly matters? Otherwise, if we don't sell the house, that's fine too. Since Mom, Dad, and my older brother and his wife are all here, why don't you ask them to lend us some money? We've already gathered 80,000 yuan on our end, and we're still short 70,000 for Grandma to have the surgery. I know you still have 30,000 yuan on hand, so you contribute 30,000, and for the remaining 40,000, Mom and Dad, as well as my brother and his wife, will each cover half. That way, we won't have to sell the house. Upon hearing that we needed to borrow money from my in-laws and my brother and his wife, the other end of the phone fell into a deathly silence. Although I had anticipated this reaction, when the moment actually arrived, I couldn't help but feel a wave of sorrow wash over me. David, I've endured so much hardship with you, and I've never asked you for anything, just this once. As long as you help me gather these $70,000, we won't get divorced, and we won't have to sell the house. David was silent for a moment, then said to me, let me think about it. Then he hung up the phone without hesitation. I sneered as I turned on the surveillance camera in my living room. In this lifetime, without me, the ever-dutiful housekeeper, serving their entire family at home, that old 89-square-meter apartment had been trashed beyond recognition in just 3 short days. With only 2 bedrooms in the house, there wasn't enough space for everyone, so my mother-in-law, along with my sister-in-law and my husband's sister, took the master bedroom. My husband was left to share the smaller bedroom with his father and older brother. The remaining 7 children, regardless of gender, were all sleeping on the floor in the living room. The dining table and the floor were littered with takeout boxes from finished meals. Some of the soup had spilled and dripped onto the tiles, but my mother-in-law didn't bother to wipe it up. Everyone was waiting for me to come back and clean up their mess. But in this life, I won't foolishly fulfill filial duties for David anymore. I stared at the surveillance footage, watching from the moment David got home from work until he went to bed. Sure enough, he ultimately chose his own family and didn't borrow money from his in-laws or his brother and sister-in-law. I filed for divorce in court, demanding the division of property. When she heard I was going to sell the house, my mother-in-law jumped 3 feet high. How dare she? This house was bought by my son. If she wants a divorce, she should leave with nothing. David, looking upset, pulled his mother aside and explained quietly, Mom, Lily also contributed money when we bought the house. My mother-in-law rolled her eyes. So what? When you marry a chicken, you follow the chicken. Since Lily married into our family, her money is our family's money. Perhaps my determination to divorce scared David, As he actually went and asked his parents for a loan, he thought that since he had always been so accommodating to his parents, brother, and sister-in-law, whenever anyone in the family was in trouble and asked him for money, he would hand it over without hesitation. Now that he was in trouble, his parents, brother, and sister-in-law surely wouldn't turn their backs on him, but unexpectedly, as soon as the topic of borrowing money came up, my mother-in-law had only 2 words: no money. My brother and sister-in-law also looked troubled and said that with 2 children in school, my sister-in-law not working back home, and my brother unemployed, they themselves were relying on online loans to get by. How could they possibly have money to lend to David? David's face turned pale. No money? Then how can you afford to send your eldest to a private high school? My sister-in-law muttered under her breath. We don't have money, but aren't there you and Lily? David was so angry that his vision went black. Just then, several children started making a fuss again. The older ones complained that staying at home all day was boring and demanded that David take them to the cinema to watch a movie and to the night market for snacks. The younger ones also clamored to go to the playground to play in the inflatable castle and to eat pizza and drink milk tea. The sister-in-law and sister-in-law also blushed and said that since they were going out shopping, they also wanted to visit a big mall and have their husbands buy them a set of high-end skincare products to show off back in the village. David was surrounded in the middle, his chest heaving more and more noticeably. Suddenly, he clasped his head in his hands, crouched on the ground, and let out a cry. Dad, Mom, I'm begging you, please go back. If this keeps up, our family is going to fall apart because of all this. Do you know how expensive it is to go to the movies these days? A movie ticket, plus popcorn and drinks, costs over 100 yuan for one person. For our whole family, a single trip to the movies would cost over 1,000 yuan. I don't even earn that much from my monthly perfect attendance bonus. Do you think the amusement parks in the city are like the 1 yuan rocking cars in our countryside? I asked my coworkers, and just the entrance ticket for that kind of amusement park costs 98 yuan per person, and then there's the high-end skincare products that my sister-in-law and younger sister want. Do you know how expensive those things are? One set costs several thousand yuan. Lily has been married to me for so many years, and I still can't bear to buy her a set. Mom, when you said you were bringing the relatives' kids to stay at my place for a few days, I thought it would just mean buying a couple more bags of rice, a bit more meat and vegetables each day, and providing them with 3 meals a day, but look how much money I've spent on them these past few days. They want burgers, fried chicken, pizza, barbecue, and crayfish for every meal. These past few days, I've spent hundreds just on takeout. If this continues, even if I had mountains of gold and silver, I'd be eaten out of house and home. Mom, I'm begging you, please take them back. I'm almost bankrupt because of them. Listening to her husband's tearful accusations, the mother-in-law's face flushed bright red. The sister-in-law muttered quietly beside her, if you don't have money, don't pretend to be rich. You even claim to be a top executive at a listed company with an annual income of 1 million. Turns out it was all a lie. The younger sister chimed in sarcastically, second brother, if you were reluctant to spend money, you should have said so earlier. You were the one who invited us to bring the kids over to your place in this scorching heat, and now you're complaining about the money we spent and trying to kick us out. I'm your own sister, so I don't really mind, but there are other people's children here too. If you send them back to their hometown, where will that leave our parents' dignity? The more the mother-in-law listened, the angrier she became. Suddenly, she raised her arm and slapped her son-in-law hard across the face. Useless thing. This family isn't yours to call the shots. Don't you still have 8,000 yuan in your card? Hurry up and withdraw it for me. I'm taking the kids to the movies and the amusement park today, no matter what. Otherwise, where will I put my face? David broke down crying. Mom, I really can't touch that 8,000 yuan. It's next month's mortgage payment. If I give it all to you, what am I supposed to do about the loan next month? The mother-in-law said nonchalantly, isn't there your wife? Let your wife pay off the loan. This house is for both of you to live in anyway, so why should you be the only one repaying the loan? David opened his mouth but felt too embarrassed to say that half of the 8,000 yuan in his card for the mortgage payment was actually from me. In the past, to show off his capability, he bragged to relatives during the new year that his salary was higher than mine and that he was the one repaying the mortgage. The mother-in-law took it at face value and always believed that her son was supporting me. I never expected that, even at this point, David would still choose to keep hiding the truth from my mother-in-law just to save face. The last $8,000 in the card was also taken by my mother-in-law. The divorce lawsuit between David and me has officially begun. Normally, in such divorce cases, the first trial usually doesn't grant A divorce, but when I presented my grandmother's diagnosis and the doctor's recommendation for immediate surgery, the court had nothing more to say. How can you mediate when someone's life is at stake? They turned to David and suggested selling the house to pay for my grandmother's surgery. Even if we lost the house, at least our marriage could be saved. But outside the courtroom, my mother-in-law threw a fit, threatening to harm herself and refusing to let us sell the house, insisting that David divorce me instead. Son, divorce her. You have a house in the big city and a good job. Once you're divorced, I'll find you an 18-year-old virgin in the village. At the mother-in-law's insistence, David eventually agreed to divorce me. We had long since implemented a Go Dutch system, and the only property that needed to be divided was this house. The mother-in-law insisted on not selling the house. According to the court's ruling, David had to pay me 400,000 yuan in compensation. My mother-in-law thought David earned $1 million a year and didn't care about this small amount of money, but it turned out that David, just like me, was an ordinary white-collar worker with a monthly salary barely over 10,000. I kept pressing him for the money, and David had no choice but to mortgage that apartment to get a loan of 400,000 for me. When I moved out, David came downstairs to see me off. Lily, is it really worth giving up on me and our home over such a small matter? To be honest, my mom doesn't have any ill intentions, she just cares about face and has a bit of a vanity issue. Those kids from our relative's family will be going back in at most another month or so. Once summer vacation ends and school is about to start, can you really not give me another chance? I turned around and looked at him with cold eyes. David, don't you understand? The problem between us isn't that you let your relative's child come to our house for the summer, it's that you never learn how to refuse your family's unreasonable demands. Let me ask you, if they come to our house this summer and have a great time, and then want to come again next year and the year after, what will you do? If you spend all your money on other people's children, what will we do when we have our own child in the future? David, I'm tired. I don't want to keep slaving away for you and your relatives back in your hometown anymore. Let's just end it here. We should part on good terms and not contact each other again in the future. After leaving H City, I resigned and returned to my hometown, taking care of my grandmother while working as a self-media content creator. Grandma is a cheerful and optimistic old lady. The floral steamed buns she makes are so lifelike and well-known far and wide. I started following my grandmother, learning to make flower buns, stitch shoe soles, and craft handmade cloth shoes. As more and more followers began to pay attention to me, the money I earned from self-media quickly reached several times my previous salary. When David heard that I was doing self-media, he proactively reached out to me and cautiously asked if he could also try self-media, specifically by filming videos of his relatives' children coming to his home for the summer vacation. I politely declined. Sorry, I haven't worked in the education or parenting niche. You can look at how others are doing it and learn from them. The following summer, David's mother-in-law indeed sent the children from their relatives to stay with him again. This time, there were even more children, a total of 14. David wanted to imitate the uncle from the news who took care of children during the summer, hoping to create a buzz and become an overnight sensation, but he didn't realize that not every child in this world is a kind and adorable little angel. On the first day of summer vacation, 2 older kids sneaked out in the middle of the night to go online. David thought the children were lost and called the police overnight. On the second day of summer vacation, several kids got into a fight. One child fell down the stairs, broke an arm, and needed 13 stitches on the face. The child's parents found David and, without a word, rushed up and beat him up. In the end, they extorted 300,000 yuan from David before reluctantly agreeing not to sue him. On the 5th day of summer vacation, David, realizing the risks of taking care of kids during the summer, decided to send all the children back home. But before he could book the ticket, something major happened. A sister who had brought her younger brother to play was helping her sister bathe in the tub when, unexpectedly, their parents called via video chat. The sister went out to answer the call, leaving her 2.5-year-old brother alone in the bathtub. By the time she remembered, the younger brother had already drowned in the bathtub. Hearing the crying, David rushed into the bathroom, seeing the little boy who had already stopped breathing in the bathtub. David's legs went weak, and with a thud, he knelt on the ground. It's over. The situation had escalated too far, and to make matters worse, David was live streaming at the time in hopes of going viral. The child of a relative was found dead in the blogger's bathroom, and netizens watching the live stream immediately called the police. Soon, David, who was the temporary guardian of these children, was taken away by the police. The next time David made the news, it was already trending on social media. David had a complete falling out with his relatives back home. He insisted that he was doing a good deed by helping take care of his relative's child, as the child's parents were working in another city, and there was no one to look after the child at home during the summer vacation. He claimed he was acting out of kindness. However, The relative stated that the child's grandparents in their hometown were available to take care of the child, so it wasn't true that no one was available. They alleged that David did it to stir up controversy online and become an internet celebrity, which is why he had them send the child over. Now that the child has died, the family's only son, carrying on the family line for 3 generations, the family has sent a message to David through their lawyer. Unless he compensates them with 1 million yuan and transfers the ownership of his city apartment to their family, they will not sign the letter of understanding. David simply couldn't come up with that much money. His self-media account had only been posting videos for a few days, and in between, he had to stop updating for 2 days because he was detained by the police station. Not only did David not earn a single penny from this self-media venture, but he also spent 20 to 30,000 yuan in just a few days because he wanted to put on a show by taking these kids to Disneyland and amusement parks because he couldn't come up with the money, and the house had already been mortgaged. David didn't obtain a letter of understanding and was soon sentenced. The only house he had was also repossessed by the bank because he hadn't paid the mortgage for 3 months. I heard that the little boy's parents, because they didn't receive the compensation, brought a group of people to David's parents and his brother and sister-in-law's homes, and completely wrecked both houses. 3 years later, as soon as David was released from prison, he came straight to my house to find me. Lily, I was wrong. From now on, I won't care about my parents' reputation, and I won't meddle in my brother and sister-in-law's affairs anymore. Let's get back together. This time, I promise to live a good life with you. I stood up from the recliner with a smile. As the skirt fell to the ground, he saw my prominently swollen belly. David's eyes widened abruptly, his lips trembling. Lily, you got married. I nodded, smiling with pure happiness. Yes, the baby is due next month. I'll treat you to red eggs then. David seemed to lose all his strength in an instant. Staggering back 2 steps, he stood there dazed for a long moment before finally forcing out a smile that looked more like crying. Stammering, he said, "Teach then, congratulations, at your age. If it weren't for me, you should have been a mother long ago. This is good, really. I wish you happiness. When the child is born, remember to let me know. I'll come for the full month celebration." After saying this, she turned and left as if fleeing. Just then, my husband came back from town with some spicy chicken skewers for me. Seeing someone running out of the yard, he asked in surprise, "Who is that?" "Oh, I don't know." He said he took the wrong path and came in to ask for directions. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.